Hello, boys and girls. I hope you're doing great. I hope you had a nice Easter, and I hope everything's going good with school starting back this week. I know not in school, but at home. We all have things that we have to do at home, so I hope that's going well. Um, so last week I put up a video and just kind of talked about the Easter story and what we celebrated and why. And so Easter obviously is the day that we recognize as Jesus conquering death and rising from the grave and coming back after he had been dead. So I want to talk today about what happened after Easter. And if you have your own Bibles and you want to turn there, we're going to be in John, the book of John, chapter 21. If you need to pause the video to get to that, then go ahead. But the book of John, chapter 21. So I didn't go over every detail of Jesus' arrest and crucifixion and things like that last week. But during that time, leading up to Easter, Jesus was arrested. He was betrayed by one of his own disciples or followers, Judas. Judas betrayed him for some money, and because of that, Jesus was arrested. On that night that Jesus was arrested, his disciples were afraid. They didn't really know what all was going on, and so they all ran off, and they were afraid. And that's understandable. They thought that they were going to, if they were caught with Jesus, they would go to jail or possibly be put to death, and so they ran off. One of Jesus' disciples, Peter, who is one of Jesus' closest disciples and friends, he ran off, but then he followed the crowd closely behind. And he was even, when they took Jesus in to kind of have a little trial, Peter was out in the courtyard waiting around. And earlier that night, when Jesus was telling his disciples what was about to happen, Peter very boldly was like, Jesus, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'm with you forever. And Jesus very calmly said, Peter, before the rooster crows 3 times, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. So Jesus said that the night before, then he's arrested, and all this stuff's taking place throughout the night. And Peter's in the courtyard waiting around, trying to see what they're going to do with Jesus, get some information. And somebody recognizes him. And they say, Peter, aren't you one of his disciples? And Peter says, no, it's not me. And someone says, no, surely you're one of his disciples. And he like, more boldly is like, no, I don't know him. And finally, someone else says, hey, aren't you one of his followers? And Peter again denies knowing Jesus. Now, he's one of Jesus' closest friends and disciples and everything. And there he has denied him 3 times. Now, I don't want to be too hard on Peter because I kind of understand where he's coming from. He was afraid. And after, immediately, the Bible tells us immediately after Peter denied him for the 3rd time, he heard a rooster crowing. And then he remembered what Jesus had said just a few hours before, that before the rooster crowed in the morning, you'll deny me 3 times. And Jesus said that right after Peter had said, I'll never deny you. I'll never turn away from you. I'll never forsake you. And Jesus says, no, you will. In a few hours. You'll do it 3 times, actually. And so when Peter heard the rooster crowing and he remembered what Jesus says, it says that he weeps bitterly. He realizes what he's done. And he runs away and he's weeping and he's crying. So we progress through. Jesus goes on trial. He's beaten. He's crucified. While Jesus is hanging on the cross, Peter and Jesus' mother Mary and few other people are there at the cross. And then we go through Easter, where Peter is one of the people that goes to the tomb and discovers Jesus' body's not there, and all this stuff. And they see Jesus afterwards, and all this stuff goes on. But what we want to talk about today in John chapter 21 is when Jesus reinstates Peter, where he forgives him. I know we've talked about this before, but in case you didn't remember or weren't here, Peter and his brother were fishermen. That was their job. They were professional fishermen, and that means they were probably pretty good at it. If they made enough money to live off of, then they were probably pretty good at it. So after Jesus had kind of went back to heaven and they hadn't seen him for a while, they go fishing. And it says they fish all night long and they don't catch anything. And that, if you're a professional fisherman, is bad. If you don't catch any fish, you're not getting paid. And so they're very discouraged. They're sad. They probably don't know really what to think, what's going on. And then early in the morning, they see this guy, and he's on the shore, and he's got a little campfire going, and he yells out to them. Hey, y'all catch any fish? And they're like, no, we didn't catch any. And so the guy on the shore, he says, throw your net on the other side of the boat. Maybe you'll catch some. Now, I know I've discussed this before, but again, maybe you didn't remember, you weren't there. The way that these fishermen fished, it wasn't with a fishing pole that you reel in like we might go fishing today. They fished with a net, and they would let the net down behind the boat, and it had a weight on one side and it flowed on the other, and they would pull it around, and then they would pull it in, and they would either have fish or they wouldn't have fish. And it didn't really matter what side of the boat that you put it in, put the net out on, because of the way they fished it, it basically fished everywhere. And so, for whatever reason, Peter, the professional fisherman, decides, you know what, I'm going to listen to this person who's standing on the beach, and I'm going to throw my net on the other side. And when they did, it says that they caught so many fish that they couldn't pull them in, that the boat started to sink. Now, instead of worrying about the fish, Peter realizes that it's indeed Jesus standing on the shore, and he's so excited that he jumps off the boat into the water and swims to shore, leaving the boat, leaving the fish, leaving everything. He's so excited. Well, that's Peter. He gets excited about things. So as he's swimming, I guess the boats start coming to shore, and it says that Peter, full of strength, goes and pulls all the fish in, 153 large fish. The nets weren't torn, the boats didn't sink. It's an amazing thing, and he pulls it all in by himself. And then they're sitting around the campfire, and they're eating some fish, they're having some breakfast, and they're all talking, and they're all fellowshipping with Jesus. And Jesus looks at Peter, and he says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord. You know I love you. And Jesus says, take care, feed my lambs. And then he looks at him and he says, Peter, do you love me? Yes, Lord. You know that I love you. Take care of my sheep. And then a third time, he says, Peter, do you love me? Now Peter, after this third time, got his feelings hurt. Yes, Lord. You know that I love you. You know all things. You know I love you. Feed my sheep. That's what Jesus said. Now, in case you forgot, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. He turned his back on him, and he denied him 3 times. And here, Jesus asked him 3 times, do you love me? And in doing so, he reminds Peter, hey, I know what you did. I told you you would, but I forgive you. Now, I need you. You have a task. And so when Jesus says, feed my lambs, take care of my sheep, feed my sheep, he's not talking about actual animals. He's telling Peter to go out and preach the word and take care of his people. Go out and teach them right from wrong. Go out and love them. Go out and heal them. Go out and do what I've taught you to do. Go take care of my sheep, Peter. Now, that's, to me, a really neat story of how Jesus forgives. And we still have the same task that Peter does. Peter is one of the founding fathers of the church. After Jesus goes back to heaven, Peter continues on with his ministry, going all over, starting churches and writing letters and teaching people and doing the works of Christ. We have the same task. As believers in Christ, we have to do the same thing. Tell other people about Jesus. Help other people. Do what we can. We mess up too. We sin. But Jesus forgives us, just like he did Peter. So I hope you enjoy that neat little story about how Peter is forgiven and reinstated after Jesus is risen from the grave. I hope you have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you when I see you.